Looking around the docking area at all the ships landing and taking off, I felt a pang of sadness for my lost ship. I had slept in it that first lonely night outside of Pilots Federation space. It had given me the freedom to explore and trade, taken me to ports where I'd met Rosalita and Keegan and so many friends along the way. I brushed a tear off my cheek, squared up my shoulders, and started looking for the signs pointing toward the shipyard. I wasn't going to let some insane cult crush the dreams of my friends and family back home. A persistent ping was coming from my comms, and I realized I had an incoming call request. Seeing the name, I smiled. Maeve, I'm glad you're okay. I heard what happened to the tiny and mighty. Rosalita's brow was furrowed in worry on the hollow screen. It wasn't that bad. Wait, I asked as I stood, waiting to see a used Sidewinder salesman. Wait, how did you know? Her beautiful lips quirked up into a small smile. I may have put a tracking device on your ship when I installed the DSS. What? I said loudly. Another customer looked over at me, and I lowered my voice. What the heck, Rosalita? Why would you do that? No, just kidding. She was laughing, unable to contain herself. Or just gets around fast. A friend of a friend heard these cultists had taken out a new pilot. Also, your black box was found and an alert was sent out to tell mechanics trying to find info on the pilot. Her gaze darkened and she got serious. You scared me, cabrona. Don't do that to me, okay? I saw her glance to the side and yell off to the camera. Just 1 minute, I'm on my break. I should let you go, I said, feeling bad. Not so fast, amiga. She leveled her gaze back at me. It's time you get a ship that can handle a fight. I tilted my head, confused. But I want to trade and scan. I am not planning on becoming a fighter. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to last long enough to jump out. She pressed some buttons and I heard a ping. Go talk to my friend. I sent you his information. He can help you get a new ship and point you towards some engineers. Wait, engineers? I asked, puzzled. It's all in the document. I gotta go, love. Stay safe. She blew me a kiss. I'll try, I said as her call cut off. Just then, I saw a friendly man waving at me. He was in bright safety orange overalls with a hard hat. Hey, Rosie said you were here. My friends call me Mechanic Man. He came up and shook my hand quickly. He motioned me down a side passage. Let's find you a new ship. Well, that was odd. I didn't even have to go looking for him. The lanky mechanic started to tell me about how he'd met Rosalita when he was working on a fleet carrier. He led me through a maze of ships in various states of disrepair. Then we walked through a door, and the room opened up. I know it looks like a junkyard, but this is what I like to call a gold mine. You never know when the insurance company will scrap a perfectly good ship just to save them some credits on the fix. The room in front of us was gigantic. I made out the silhouette of an entire anaconda amid the twisted, broken metal mountains. As I looked longer, I started to see engines and wings, and followed him as he just started walking in between the towering hulks of dead ships. I dodged between rusty, twisted wrecks and ships that seemed fine until I realized a laser had cleaved them in half. He waved at another worker who was digging through a pile of gears. Long arms were pulling up and moving debris around as another person worked the controls on a crane on rails. I saw this one come in yesterday. It was some young buck's first ship, and it only has a few dings and dents, but he traded up to a racing Viper, so it doesn't have that many light years on it. He ducked underneath a Sidewinder. I wasn't too sure. It was painted this glitzy blue chrome and looked like something a teenager thought was cool. "What's her name?" I asked, arms crossed. Mechanic Man pulled up the info, swiping through. "She's the four-leaf clover. Sounds pretty lucky name to me, right?" Rosalita mentioned something about engineers? What did she mean? I watched as he pulled off a panel and stuck his head into the engine compartment. His muffled voice came out of the ship. "Engineers are specialists. They've tinkered and pushed components to extraordinary lengths. You'll have to engineer your whole ship if you want a chance of surviving out there." "How do I find them?" I tried not to laugh as he kicked up his feet and slid into the engine bay, feet waving in the air for a minute. His head suddenly popped back out, a big grin on his face. "You should already actually have an invite." Usually Felicity's marketing team are the best. Once you hit Scout, they send you a message. He popped back into the dark belly of the ship. I scanned my inbox. There was a lot of political flyers and corporate ads. Before I got to what I was looking for, I saw a strange message titled, "You have been chosen by Braben." I remembered that Captain Stella had mentioned the cult that had blown up my last ship worshipped Braben. I clicked on it. "Greetings, Commander Maeve. You are now one of the chosen of Lord Braben. You have been blessed to survive the trial of fire. Now it is your duty to carry on in his footsteps. We will be watching. Offer 6 lives to our Lord to complete your path to enlightenment. You have 30 Earth days to ascend to your higher purpose. If you don't choose the path of life, we'll gift you to our Lord with the final death." I felt a shiver run down my spine. Looking around at the torn wrecks of ships, I suddenly felt so alone. I had to reread the message and try and figure out what insane speak it meant. Apparently, I have a month to either kill people or they're going to kill me. That wasn't going to work. Maybe I'd be able to fight my way out, or I'd have to run. Maybe they'd forget about me in time. Something wrong? I nearly jumped out of my skin. Mechanic Man was looking over my shoulder at the holopad. "Oh, that's definitely not good." Mechanic Man crossed his arms. "You know, just by helping you out, I could get in trouble." My eyes widened. "I didn't want to bring trouble to you. It's okay." My voice hitched as I started to think about having to track down a used dealer or a new sales floor. No, you don't. I'm helping you out, miss." He looked at something. Oh my. Do you know what Rosalita sent you?" I pulled up the document with blueprints and scribbled notes that hadn't made any sense to me. "No?" "This is the famous Corvette killer build." Mechanic Man's eyes were wide and his voice was low in reverence. "How did she get a hold of it?" Before I could ask him what he meant, he started talking. "There's this pilot so skilled and so lethal that no matter the ship he flies, he'll leave wreckage in his wake. SoldierSailor is his name. And you have the plans to his famous Corvette killing Sidewinder. His claim to fame happened to be with this very build. He was interdicted by a Corvette hell-bent on ending his life. They thought they'd finally caught him off guard in a tiny Sidewinder, but little did those feds know it was built for battle." Snapping out of his reverie, the mechanic finished. "Anyhow, These plans are very rare, and if you follow the instructions, you actually might have a shot at surviving those cultists. We started to walk back out of the wreckage. As I turned, I saw a large pincher gently pulling the shiny Sidewinder up and away across the space. "Don't worry, miss. I'll have that ship fixed up nice for you. Come on back in a couple days." He smiled. His infectious good mood kind of rubbed off on me, even under the circumstances. "Thank you again so much," I said as the doors hissed shut between us. It was a long couple of days, to say the best. I felt really anxious to get back out into the black, but at the same time, I was really worried. I kept seeing robed figures watching me around the station. And when I finally got a ping from Mechanic Man, I was overjoyed, rushing down to the docks. Sitting there gleaming on the landing pad was the little sighty from the junkyard. Only it was transformed. I had to shield my eyes from the glare coming off the chrome paint, though. "Hey, what do you think?" The mechanic had a worried but excited look on his face. I walked up to look at the tiny ship. I couldn't see any of the scratches or dents from before. Wow. I ran my hand along the belly of the ship as I climbed into the cabin. He followed me in and jammed himself awkwardly in the corner of the cockpit as I sat down in the pilot seat. "I added a few extras. I A-rated your FSD, your power, and I got you another DSS." "What?" I asked, surprised, and noticed how I now owned all the modules in my ship. That felt good. "This baby also has a great sound system left over from the previous owner." He leaned forward and pressed a button. Ancient oldies started blasting out of hidden speakers. "Also," he shouted over the music, "I upgraded your escape pod. This one has emergency comm system. That way, if you're ever in trouble, you'll be able to call for help." I found the volume knob and turned down the music. "Thank you. Oh, what do I owe you for all of this?" Nothing much. Your pilot's insurance covers most of it. 56K should cover the rest." He sent me an invoice and I clicked the pay button. "Now, you get this little ship engineered pronto, okay?" he said, lovingly patting the dash of the ship. "Where do I start?" I asked, completely out of my depth. He waved at my hollow arm projector. "It's all in your invitation about Felicity. My suggestion, head to Maya." He paused. "Just be careful when you get that meta alloy. Those bugs don't really like us taking their stuff." "Bugs?" I asked, but he was already off, giving me a light wave over his shoulder. "Bugs? That didn't sound good." Typing in the coordinates, I had to take a minute to recheck. 389 light years? Wow, this is going to be a long trip. I fire up the thrusters and think to myself, I'm not going to let some death cult get in the way of helping people back home. Plus, there's no way they'd be able to follow me this far. I want to say a personal thank you to MechanicManVR for letting me use your amazing character in this episode. Also, a big shout out and thanks to SoldierSailor, who really has killed a Corvette in his Sidewinder build. But most of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. The story continues next week when Maeve discovers a stranded ship on her way to steal, borrow from the Thargoids.